Welcome to another episode of Straight Out of Camera. Today's recipe is called E6XD. As soon as I got the X-E1, I knew I wanted to see what recipes I could create with this. And I experimented with a lot, but I kind of narrowed it down to 3 that I'm going to share on this channel and my blog. And if I come up with any more before I sell it, if I sell it, then I will share those as well. But 2 of the recipes I'm sharing are my attempt to play around with some recipes that would mimic or give the vibe of E6 slide film or any sort of slide film from back in the day even. And today is one of those. Okay, so this recipe may seem like one of the more simple ones I've created, and it probably is, but I think this is one of the situations where it shows how solid some of these built-in simulations that Fujifilm includes with the cameras are. So this is based on VELVIA, VELVIA being one of Fujifilm's most famous film stocks. So I used that as the base, and then I used a locked-in white balance of 5600, so it would be, daylight white balanced, and then I increased the color even a little more with a white balance shift. So in some situations you're going to feel like it's just VELVIA and it's not going to feel like it's tweaked too much. But between the white balance shift and some of the other settings, where even though I tweaked the white balance shift, I pulled back the color setting a little bit, I increased the highlight tone by 1. So some of those tweaks combined together just takes it slightly off of center, off of the original starting point of VELVIA. And I think there's a unique look here, and a lot of it depends on what time of day you're going to be shooting. I haven't had a chance to shoot this in magic hour too much. I think I had one or two shots that was shot during that time, but it really should shine during that time frame, during golden hour, magic hour. Especially if there's clouds and you're getting a sunset type scene, but really anything with that lighting, it should look really, really nice. So if you guys try it out in that sort of lighting, why don't you guys let me know, and we'll figure out a way to share some of those samples as well. The challenge sometimes with these daylight balance recipes that have a dynamic range of 4400 that I have this one set to, is that it's hard. So unless you have an ND filter, sometimes you can't shoot at the required ISO to get that dynamic range setting without just blowing out, without being overexposed. So some of my samples, I also had to adjust my ISO and then forego that dynamic range of 400. So you might run into that as well. I don't think the recipe suffers too much when the dynamic range is decreased a little bit. Overall, I really like this look, and this could be one that I would keep locked in on the camera and shoot as an everyday carry type film stock type recipe, because it would give some cool color pops, some nice saturation. It's a cool slide film type vibe. So here are some samples of this E6XD recipe, shot with this camera and this Pergear 35mm f1.2. This lens and some of the lenses from TTArtisans and TTArtisans as well are really cool alternatives to actual vintage glass. I love vintage glass, and I shoot with old Canon glass, old Nikon glass, old Pentax glass a lot. But the cool thing about these, obviously, is if you get the X mount, you don't need an adapter, so you're more compact. And some of them have similar glass design and layout as some of those vintage lenses do. So there's some built-in flaws that they share with some of those lenses. They just really remind me of having some of those lenses on the camera. So a lens like this on a body like this with some of the recipes I've been creating is a really cool solution to get some vintage vibes in photography. So that's it for now. That's another recipe that I created with the X-E1 that would also translate well to all of the cameras that came after it, since that's one of the base film simulations that it's built on. The newer cameras obviously will have more wiggle room on some of the settings, so you could take this and expand upon it. And if you do, let me know. But that's it for now. I appreciate every one of you guys for watching. Just like always, the settings for this recipe is in the description and will also be on my blog. Thanks again, and I'll talk to you soon.